Okay, so before I give today's BBC, we've already received 2 emails about yesterday's BBC. So I thought I should report to everybody that we did move Queen Karuna's kitty condo to the firewood room. And she has, with Venerable Yeshe, shedding tears. And Queen Karuna has gone in there and she'll use the clawboard part of it. But she has now chosen to sleep on the sofa in the office, just like normal, regular kitty cats. And yeah, I went to pet her yesterday. She didn't nosh on my finger. And I haven't heard anybody else saying that she's, you know, nipped at them either. So, you know, maybe this thing of losing our arrogance, losing our attachment to possessions, losing this thought of I and mine, you know, that this is actually good not only for human beings but also for kitties. Okay, so that's the follow-up from yesterday. Then today, I wanted to talk about what Jack inspired me last night when we were having teachings on the 7 types of cognizers. And he told the story about when you were young and your grandma had asked you to clean up your room. And he was furious, and she's evil, and she's awful, and she's controlling me, and she's this and that. And he was carrying on so much in his own mind that suddenly he heard this sound and realized she was crying, and it completely shocked him. And he didn't even know how long she was crying because he was so caught up in his own mind. Yeah? And so I really thought about that because although I've never been a mother, and it's probably good that I never was, I know how your grandma feels, okay? Because sometimes I'm put in the position of having to remind people to do things that they know need to be done, or to remind them not to do things that they know should not be done. And it's a very uncomfortable position for me. I really don't like it, you know? And because it feels to me that when there's something like cleaning your room is a good example, you know, or making your bed, that when I have to remind people to do that, I feel lousy because I feel in some way it is, it's disrespectful to another person to have to remind them to do this, because mature people who, you know to do this automatically, you know, or at least in my mind, you know, kind of like as a courtesy to everybody you live with, you keep your room clean. I'm just using this as an example. It could be any kind of other behavior, you know. So I don't like having to say to somebody, it feels to me like, you know, I'm being disrespectful having to remind them to clean their room because people know that already. And so then I get very unhappy because I don't like being what I consider being disrespectful to other people. But then I think that those people are also putting me in that position because they know that cleaning their room is something that, you know, should be done, or whatever the behavior is, something that should or should not be done. Everybody knows, and when somebody chooses not to do it, it's like they're putting the person in the quote authority position, you know, in the authority role, in the position of having to say something to them. So in some way, when we do that, you know, we do something or don't do something that we know we should or shouldn't do out of just common courtesy to other people, then, you know, in some way, are we aware of what we're doing? Are we doing it deliberately in some way to start some kind of conflict with the other person so that we can then get angry and say, oh, look at this authority figure, they're doing and give a you know, start a conflict, or, you know, vent our anger or whatever. So I just wonder about that, you know, because it's something that I know I try and be aware and mindful of. If there's a behavior that I know is disturbing to somebody, or something that just common manners, common way people treat each other, do that, then to try and do that for just the sake of creating harmony with the people we live with. And so, you know, when people don't do that, then it sends this ripple of energy, you know, and this is just how it affects me, being in the position of then having to say something to that person, which I don't like to do, but I know I have to do for the benefit of the greater good, and also to help that person learn that this is something that we do out of just common courtesy for everybody in whatever environment it is. You know, I mean, it may be the same thing like in a work environment, and you don't clean up the coffee machine after you use it, and as a result, then, you know, your boss has to come and, you know, talk about cleaning up the coffee machine, and then everybody afterwards grumbles, but all the people who are grumbling put the boss in the position of having to say that. You know, and they knew that they put the boss in the position of having to say that. So why are they doing that? You know, or are they just not? Yeah, so it's just curious for me, okay? So my point is, of all this, that when we know there are things to do or not do that are commonly accepted in a certain environment, out of love and compassion and common courtesy for the people we live with, let's do those things, and as a way of expressing our love and compassion and creating harmony in the environment, you know? And so if we're aware and we do those things, it can prevent so much just harmony and friction and us feeling bad and our feeling rebellious and the other person feeling put in a difficult position, but just as a way of, you know, common courtesy and using common courtesy, common manners as we do those things motivated by an attitude of compassion because we care about the people that we share the environment with. Yeah. So I took a lot of words to say that, but is the meaning clear? Can somebody say it in fewer words?
I can explain what I learned from the situation.
Okay, here.
Okay.
Yeah, come on.
So I think that the moment when I heard my grandma crying, it was really important, an important thing that happened in my life. Because I think there were three things that I learned from that. One is I learned that people don't want to be angry. Every day I would kind of come home and my grandma would be yelling at me and my brother to clean our room and this kind of thing. And I think this is the kind of thing that you were talking about a moment ago, where my grandma didn't want that kind of relationship with me. You know, she wanted to have a harmonious relationship with me. She loved me, and she didn't want to be put in the position where every single day she was yelling at me. And I think that that's kind of what I learned, that it was up to me if I could remember to sort of clean my room or do things the first time she asked me, then I could have a different sort of relationship with her than one where she was yelling at me every day. And then my own kind of like, oh, what's wrong with her? She's so mean, and, you know, like this kind of thing, like thinking this thing about her, which I'm sure really hurt her. Yeah, so those are two things. And then the last thing I think that I learned was I really learned that no one's evil either, you know? Really. Like, I really thought something was wrong with her. And when I saw her crying, evil people don't cry. Yeah? So that was incredibly powerful to me. And I think that moment, I've remembered it my whole life. And I was probably 5th grade, something like that, quite young. So it was really important.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else have?
I only have a comment. I had a
Do you want to come here?
No. I had only a situation, a work situation, and one person like documented the coffee machine and kitchen area, and there was one person, actually not only one, who said, "I have no time to clean up after me." And this person actually was really kind of busy, but that acted out like other people who had actually also no time, but who had more compassion or whatever, have done it all the time. And I was so unhappy with the situation, and probably this person, I couldn't see that this person was very happy with it too, but I didn't know what to do with it. And nobody said anything because they had no argument, and that's it.
Okay, this is interesting. So you were saying in a work situation, somebody not cleaning up the coffee machine, and when it came up, that person said, "I have no time to clean up after myself," and didn't even care because there was no chance to discuss it afterwards with anybody else, and that you were left sitting there startled, as was everybody else, feeling, well, I just have to clean up after this person, but something's not quite right in her attitude and her behavior. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, there's so many small ways we can show compassion and respect for others, and this is one of them. Okay, so it could be doing the dishes, you know, in families, that's another big bone of contention. It could be, you know, any little thing, yeah. Brushing your teeth by a certain time. Yeah, showing up on time for something, you know, whatever it is.